Marketing Podcast listener, are you looking to increase traffic and sales to your website? You can do this by launching your own referral program. Just visit getosi.com and sign up for a free trial today. That's getosi.com. Now get ready to hear from your e-commerce marketing expert of the week as they drill down to give you details on marketing strategies that can help grow your business.
Welcome back to the Ecommerce Marketing Podcast, everyone. I am your host, Arlen Robinson, and today we have a very special guest, Amber Armstrong, who is a Senior Vice President and Chief Marketing Officer at LivePerson and LivePerson's global marketing team, which includes brand and product marketing, demand generation, communications, and content, with a focus on accelerating the company's ongoing expansion of sales and marketing use cases for conversational commerce. Prior to joining LivePerson, Amber led marketing for several AI-infused SaaS businesses of IBM, including operations, commerce, and marketing solutions. Amber also has earned an MBA from the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and her BS from Winthrop University. Welcome to the podcast, Amber.
Thank you so much, Arlen. Great to see you today.
Yes, likewise. It's great to have you on. I'm really excited to talk to you because you guys over at LivePerson are really doing some big things with regards to e-commerce. Today, we're going to be talking about something that's really your bread and butter, and that's going to be AI-powered messaging. And we're going to be digging deep into that. Before we do that, why don't you tell us a little bit more about your background and really how did you get into what you're doing today?
Yeah, absolutely. So I joined IBM in, I guess, 2006 and started my time there working in our partner organization, which has obviously a lot of interest for your audience, kind of affiliate marketers. And I learned a lot there about how to kind of build this network of teams to be able to drive results. I then moved throughout different divisions of IBM and continuing taking on a kind of expanded opportunities and roles. My last role was in AI applications and blockchain and leading those marketing initiatives. Prior to that, I had been in AI for several other groups as well. And I decided I was ready for a change and wanted to go to a smaller company, but not too small. And the opportunity with LivePerson came up and I was just really excited. LivePerson has just an amazing reputation in the market. I've only been here now for about 3 months. Okay. And it's exciting. There's a lot of really fun things that we're getting to do. As a marketer, it's not very often you come in and they say, hey, here's 30% more budget and 30% more people. So it's, the challenge is in how we grow quickly and alongside, all of our partners and our sales team as well.
Okay, great. That's awesome. And it sounds like you have a really solid background and have kind of been in the game for a while and, can bring a lot of value there to LivePerson and what you guys are doing. And so, as I mentioned today at the top of the episode, we're going to be talking about AI-powered messaging. And I know a lot of times when people hear AI is really kind of a big buzzword these days. A lot of times people think about AI, they think of some, super advanced computer system, evil computer, so to speak, that's, making decisions, with hardly any human intervention, but it really isn't like that. And so before we kind of get into it, why don't you just really define really what AI-powered messaging is and how does AI really relate to marketing and providing proper messaging to your website visitors and your customers?
Yeah, so we've all been to a website and the chat button pops up and, starts trying to engage with you. That's a very clear way. LivePerson started actually chat messaging back in the beginning, like 25 years ago. Right. So that's been kind of bread and butter for us and how we have helped brands to interact with consumers. Okay. As things have progressed, that what consumers want is to be able to talk to brands like they talk to their friends. And so, for example, if you are you call an airline today, especially right now with the way things are happening, kind of as travel's picking up post COVID for the US anyway. Certainly in other countries, they're not back on the travel train yet. But as
Right.
we see that, what we see happening is that they are actually consumers are calling into travel agencies or airlines as an example, and the wait's an hour and a half, and it's
Oh, wow.
it's pretty consistent across the different airlines right now. So what we can do is we actually set up messaging, so you can message the airline. Let's just use that as an example, exactly as you do your friends, right?
Wow.
And you can have an ongoing conversation. And the one thing that's just really amazing about messaging is it's asynchronous. So you don't have to sit on the website, wait for someone to reply, miss the chat message or the chat box popping back up. You message with the airline, you go on living your life, they come back to you and engage with you, answer your questions. You can pay, all those great things you can do straight through the messaging capabilities. So there's a huge value for consumers because they get answers exactly when they want them.
Yeah.
And there's a huge value for the businesses. So let's just stay on that airline example. And, they now have agents who, instead of being on a phone with one person at a time, they can actually manage multiple interactions all at the same time.
Wow.
And so that helps to reduce cost. And because we have AI in our interactions, the system is bringing in all of this data, analyzing it, understanding the intent that that person has, and then is able to, the bots are actually able to act on and solve many, many, many of the customer questions and interactions. That's really powerful, right? Because again, it's a cost reduction, but also people don't want to talk to other people in these kind of situations. They just want to get their problem solved. And using AI, we're able to do that more quickly than if we just had to rely on agents. And then there's a third benefit that I think is really exciting, is the agent experience. So agents, instead of just kind of taking the same calls every day, what they're actually doing is they still take calls, but the calls that they're taking are the ones that the bots haven't been able to answer. And they're also training the bots. So instead of just being a call center agent, you're actually an AI trainer. And it's a lot more interesting and exciting for the agents. Helps with, obviously, with retention of agents and being able to have agents feel like they've got a real, career path and continual learning.
Wow. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, when you were talking about that and how people can message these airlines, I mean, that's really kind of in my mind, kind of light years before above where they used to be. Because I can recall when I started my business. I told you I've been around about 21 years in business. I can remember the early days. Myself, my business partner, we were trying to book flights. I remember, oh my God, it was a pain. And this was really, I mean, when the airlines didn't have a sophisticated online system where, I think they had some things that you can do online, but it was really cumbersome. So most of the time, we just booked over the phone. It was just a lot easier to go through options and, see what different fares were just by talking to someone. And so I recall, trying to get through the airlines. We would both be on different lines trying to get through, calling the same support number. It was almost like a game. We're like, all right, who are they going to pick up on first? And so, we would try to get through like that. But now with the messaging aspect of it and this whole giving people the ability to text in, their question, their request, if they want to make a change, and then have the response just kind of in their own time is really amazing. And that's some powerful stuff. And
it
so
really is. And it's not just travel, right? We work with banks, we work with retailers, we work, all kinds of industries, interestingly, energy utilities is a big area for us as well, right? When your power's out, you want someone to interact with you really quickly, right? So there's a lot of things that, and a big part of why I decided to join LivePerson is it really does make consumers' lives better. And it also is incredibly helpful to brands.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Well, I know a lot of our listeners and our viewers are e-commerce businesses or they're marketers for e-commerce businesses. And I think, one of the hot topics with regards to AI messaging is really, how can this technology be used, in conjunction with supporting customers, to help bring in new customers at the same time and make that process a lot more streamlined and efficient.
Yeah, it's really interesting. We actually just did a session not too long ago on the living in a cookieless world. And if you think about what marketers, we're all facing this challenge of how we use third-party data, how much of that is going to continue to be available, and how we use first-party data. Well, messaging is first-party data, because as someone comes into your website, they choose to engage with you via messaging. That's consent. You can talk to them about their topic. And so in this world where cookies are going away, ultimately, they keep kind of delaying that time frame, being able to talk to your customers and have a conversation allows this level of personalization that you could never really do with cookies anyway. You could do some level of personalization with cookies, but if someone comes into your website and you or a bot can specifically take them on a journey based on exactly the questions they're asking you and the help that they need, that's so much better. And that really makes all websites personalized for the user's needs.
Yeah, definitely. And that's really what it's all about. It's really, these tools, I think, kind of help really improve the overall customer's experience, from your existing customers to new customers. And I think they're more important than ever these days. I think mainly because of how busy everyone is, and people have, so little time. Everybody's doing a million things, just trying to keep things going, especially with everything that's going on with COVID and everything. People got a million, family responsibilities, personal responsibilities. And so when they're going online looking to purchase something, the time is limited. And so if they're not able to quickly, easily, effectively get the answers to their questions, answered, and figure out what this product is about, and get that resolved easily, then, they're going to bounce to the next site. So it's just very critical.
It really is. And we see customers, specifically on the attracting new customers, we see some of our customers using conversational ads. Okay. So you go out, you place your display ad just as you would normally, but the follow through, instead of dropping it into a web page where you're expecting the person to kind of navigate and figure out and kind of decipher what you've been talking to them about in the ad, it actually drops them into a chat. And so they can actually start messaging directly with someone in the business about what they saw in the ad. And it just cuts out so much of the churn and the time, the wasted time for the consumer.
Yeah. I can definitely see that. And with those ads, I think Amazon, they do a little bit of that. I've actually experienced that myself when I've been, and when I've had issues with certain products, and then when I'm able to kind of go on there with their customer support chat, they have a great way of kind of passing off and doing a great handoff of order information to that customer support rep. What is it that you have a concern about? And all of that is all within the messaging, and it's pretty seamless. And so,
exactly.
It's really, really powerful stuff. Now, if there's businesses out there that you're interested in making this happen, because I think, we're kind of still at the early phases of this AI messaging. There's a lot of companies like, of course, LivePerson that's making some great strides, and there's others out there. But I think we're still really at the early phases of it. So, if a brand is interested in pursuing this and making this happen on their websites, what are some tools and resources that they can utilize and implement, to make this happen?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you go to liveperson.com, you'll be able to find we have availability for our free trial, so people can start using it as soon as they want and try it out. There are some templated AI technologies in there, so you can start getting on to the AI aspects of it today. I think certainly also, thinking about how do you want to really craft the journey through that experience. So it's not just about getting someone to start the conversation with you, but about how do you want to be able to learn from the conversations that you're having with these audiences to be able to deploy more automations to make those conversations more efficient.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's awesome. I definitely encourage people to check out what you guys offer in your free trial. Now, one thing I was thinking when you were just kind of mentioning, the capabilities that are really out there for AI and what you can do. One of the things that I've seen, that I've even kind of dealt with in my own experiences with these apps, and I think this is a kind of a valid question, where I think some businesses may be a little leery to utilize it just because of, I think it's a fine line of using AI powered messaging and still making it personalized and still having that kind of human touch to it, because we've all been there, we've all gone to these different apps, and obviously it's a bot responding sometimes, and sometimes I'm not gonna lie, it can be a little bit frustrating because you're like, all right, sometimes you can't tell though. Actually, there's a lot of the good companies out there do a great job where it's almost like you're communicating with someone, but there's others that I've seen where it's a little frustrating because you're just getting these canned responses and it has nothing to do with what it is that you're asking about. So how do you gotta get that human touch to it, and then at the same time get this to be powered via your AI?
Yeah. So the AI actually is what makes it personal. So it's really, really exciting. So in our technology specifically, and a lot of our competitors are similar, but we are, I think, pretty far ahead on the AI front. We analyze all of the conversations. And so we can understand, for example, David's Bridal is one of our customers, right? We can understand when people come in with a certain set of concerns or questions, right? About, where's my order? How do I return this? The basic kind of questions that you would see. And then what we see is the bot starts handling as much of these as possible. And at the same time, we're actually measuring how happy is that person. So they may come in and be really frustrated because they had a shipment that didn't show up or something was the wrong size. And then at the end, their words change. Thanks for your help. You've been great, that sort of thing. Because people don't always realize it's a bot, right? And that's the magic of it, is when you don't realize that it's a bot. Yeah. And so what we're able to do is say, okay, in this situation, the bot did these things and it led to a change in tone, to a really positive outcome for that consumer. And then likewise, you can measure it on the other side to say, okay, at this point, the person asked for agent help, right? Because you can always kind of opt in to say, hey, I need to speak to someone.
Okay.
And when they do that, then that sends that conversation to an agent to say, oh, what went wrong here? How do we learn from this so that next time we're better able to answer that consumer's need in a way that's more personalized towards what they were actually asking. And so it's just about that ongoing learning.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I never really realized that when you are chatting with these systems and this AI, it's actually learning the whole way. Every conversation, it's feeding the database with how people are responding based on what's being said. And then, for the next time, it would know, all right, somebody will have a happier tone when they are saying these things, and then they can kind of switch up some of the wording. So yeah, really cool stuff. I never really realized that, but this is really something that's, they're going to be growing from and learning from with every single conversation. And
that's one of the things that makes our AI really strong, is because we've been in this space for so long, and we have such a huge volume with, and I've been in AI a long time now, and the quality of the AI is directly correlated to the volume of information that the AI tools are able to consume. And so since we have a very specialized focus, we're able to get really, really good at the predictions.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, definitely. Well, that's good to know. Well, Amber, as we get ready to wrap things up, if you don't mind highlighting some other examples of some businesses that you either worked with or you're familiar with that have been using AI messaging, and what are some things that they've done to be successful? I know you've mentioned, of course, United Airlines, David's Bridal. What are some other e-commerce businesses, and what have they done?
Yeah, so we've got the Home Depot is another one
Okay.
that has a really great online capability. We work with Dunkin' Donuts. And Dunkin' Donuts, when you can get their coffee, get their coffee cup, and there's a QR code that can help you start to message with them. We
Right.
have one of the largest jewelry retailers out there working with us as well. And they moved during COVID. This is just so fascinating. During COVID, they couldn't bring people into stores anymore. And so what they did was they introduced virtual agents. And so they had their people who previously worked in stores actually working and helping customers virtually. And they inserted bots in to be able to help as well, to do reminders on anniversaries and things that are coming up that can help kind of spur future sales. There's a lot of use across a lot of different businesses.
Yeah, gotcha. I see that. Yeah, the QR codes is a big thing. I've seen that a lot. I was actually this past weekend. I'm here in Orlando, Florida, and I go to the driving range. I golf, and at the driving range I go to, they have an interactive technology where it's it can detect how far your balls go on the range, and so they have a system where you can actually register and create an account, and so you can play interactively with people from all over the world in this kind of virtual golf course, so to speak. But they use the QR code to initiate that whole thing where you get into their system, you create your account. And so, yeah, that's really big these days.
Yeah, it's pretty surprising how much, QR codes during COVID have really become just the norm. Think of, when's the last time we went to a restaurant and there wasn't a QR code on the menu, right?
Yeah, that's very true. I think every single restaurant I've been to the past few months, there's this QR code right there, so you can pull it up on your phone. So yeah, that's the world we're in, and things are still steadily changing. Well, Amber, it's definitely been awesome having you on. I definitely appreciate you coming on the E-commerce Marketing Podcast. I've learned a lot, and I know our listeners have as well. And so before we do let you go, I always like to find out a little bit more about our listeners. So if you don't mind sharing one closing fun fact that you think our audience would be interested to know about yourself.
Well, about myself, I have been to 46 countries. And, I think it is being able to tour the world has given me such a bright, different perspective than I would have had otherwise. And I think it's really helped me as a marketer to be much, much, much better at understanding consumer perspectives and how we as marketers can better serve those audiences.
Okay, wow, that's awesome. 46 countries. Well, I think I've got a ways to go before I catch up with you. But I definitely want to get on the ball. I love traveling myself, and I definitely agree with you. When you're able to go to other countries or other cultures and see, how differently people, just interact in general, you really learn a lot, not only from a business perspective, but just on a kind of a human, personal perspective. You really get to see that things are a little bit different outside of the US, and then you can pick things up from other countries and use the way people interact for what you're doing. And so yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I'm sure what you've seen can really help you in your role today at LivePerson, because you guys are a global company, and this is everything now is kind of switching to a whole global economy. And so you have to be mindful about especially if you offer a product or services, not only in your own home country, but into other countries. You do have to be mindful about I guess you could say, kind of the sensibilities that people have in different countries, because there's certain things that, may work in the US that may not work in another country. And so you have to be mindful of that. Yeah. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that, Amber. And lastly, before we let you go, if you don't mind letting us know if any of our listeners want to get in touch with you and pick your brain any more about AI-powered messaging, what was the best way for them to reach you?
Yeah, find me on LinkedIn. So I am on LinkedIn multiple times a day. So I'm doing a lot of recruiting for roles right now. So I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. So hopefully just reach out to me, Amber Armstrong, on LinkedIn. I'd love to talk to you more.
Okay, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Definitely encourage our listeners to reach out to you and connect on LinkedIn. And thank you, Amber, for joining us today on the E-commerce Marketing Podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the E-commerce Marketing Podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode of the E-commerce Marketing Podcast, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and share it with everyone you know.